My wife said, I have accepted a date with John. I want to try something exciting. Welcome to Romance Files. Please like this video and subscribe to Romance Files. We're grateful for each and every one of you. Let us know where in the world you're tuning in from. We love to hear from you in the comments. Let's begin. Adrian leaned back in his chair, the hum of his computer providing the only background noise in the quiet home office. It was a typical Thursday evening, mundane, predictable, almost soothing in its routine. That predictability shattered the moment Sophia appeared in the doorway. I'm going out tonight, she said casually, her voice as light as if she were announcing dinner plans. Adrian turned his head, half smiling. Oh yeah? Where? Sophia hesitated, tucking a strand of her auburn hair behind her ear. I have a date. The word hit him like a gut punch. His smile froze, the air around him thickening with disbelief. What? A date? She repeated almost nonchalantly. It's nothing serious, just dinner with Damon from work. Adrian stared, his brain refusing to process what he had just heard. You're joking, he said, his voice trembling with forced laughter. But Sophia wasn't joking. The look in her hazel eyes was steady, unapologetic. It's just a dinner, she said, her tone edging toward defensiveness. You know, to shake things up. Life's been dull lately, don't you think? Dull? Adrian's mind raced. 7 years of marriage, a partnership he thought was solid, reduced to dull. Are you serious right now? He managed, his voice rising. Sophia sighed, brushing past him as if he were overreacting. You've been so focused on work lately. Damon and I we've been talking, and we both feel the same. Stuck, stagnant. It's harmless. Adrian stood, his chest heaving with a mix of rage and confusion. You're telling me, your husband, that you're going on a date with another man, and you expect me to be okay with that? It's not like that, Sophia said, her voice tinged with exasperation. I'm being honest with you, because I respect you. Isn't honesty what you've always wanted from me? Respect. The word echoed in Adrian's head like a cruel joke. Before he could respond, Sophia planted a quick kiss on his forehead. I'll be back by 10, she said, grabbing her red dress from the back of the bedroom door. Adrian stood frozen, his thoughts a chaotic storm as the front door slammed shut. He felt the first crack in the foundation of his life, a life he thought was unshakable. Adrian sat on the couch, a bottle of beer in his hand, his eyes fixed on the clock. Each passing minute felt like a taunt, a reminder that his wife was out with another man. Am I overreacting? He muttered to himself, but deep down he knew better. Sophia hadn't asked for permission. She declared her intentions with a casual indifference that left no room for debate. He dialed Kevin, his best friend since college. Hey, you got time for a drink at the bar? Adrian recounted the night's events, disguising the story as a colleague's situation. Kevin, ever the optimist, shrugged. Maybe it's just a one-time thing. People do stupid stuff when they're bored. Bored, Adrian said, his voice tight. We're not talking about picking up a new hobby, Kevin. This is my marriage. Kevin raised his hands in surrender. I'm just saying maybe she's looking for excitement and doesn't realize how far she's gone. Talk to her when she gets home. Adrian nodded, but his stomach churned with unease. Sophia returned earlier than expected, her cheeks flushed, her lipstick slightly smudged. Hey, she said, her tone bright, almost giddy. It was fun, just what I needed. Adrian stared at her, his fists clenching at his sides. Fun? She nodded, oblivious to the storm brewing in his chest. Damon and I were talking about planning a weekend trip. Nothing serious, just a getaway. Adrian's breath caught. A weekend trip? The words burned like acid. You're planning a weekend with another man, and you think that's okay? He said, his voice dangerously low. Sophia tilted her head as if he were the unreasonable one. Adrian, I told you I'm just trying to bring some excitement into my life. It's not like I'm leaving you. But she already had, Adrian realized. In her mind, their marriage was nothing more than a safety net, a placeholder while she chased thrills elsewhere. As Sophia drifted off to sleep that night, Adrian sat on the couch, staring into the darkness. A thought took root in his mind, a cold, unrelenting resolve. If she wanted excitement, he'd give her more than she bargained for. Adrian woke the next morning with a clarity that startled him. He wasn't going to be the man who sat idly by while his life crumbled. If Sophia thought her actions came without consequences, she was sorely mistaken. She moved through the house that morning, humming as she prepared for her weekend trip. The suitcase in their bedroom lay open, her favorite red dress neatly folded at the top. Adrian watched from the doorway, his expression unreadable. You seem excited, he said, finally breaking the tense silence. Sophia glanced at him, her smile disarming. I think this will be good for both of us. I'll come back refreshed, and we can talk about everything then. Adrian didn't respond. Instead, he walked past her to the closet, where he began sorting through his belongings. If Sophia noticed, she didn't say anything. By the time she left that Saturday morning, Damon's sleek black car waiting in the driveway, Adrian was already moving. He called a locksmith, changing every lock in the house. Her suitcase, her clothes, every last item of hers was stuffed into black trash bags and shoved into the garage. But that wasn't enough. Adrian wanted more than just to push her out of his life. He wanted her to feel the weight of what she'd done. Adrian spent the rest of the day piecing together a plan. Every text she'd sent, every whispered phone call he'd overheard, every clue she'd left behind, he compiled it all. He created a timeline. The dinner dates she claimed were work meetings. the late-night texts she thought he hadn't noticed. He even hacked into their shared bank account, finding transactions she had tried to hide. Hotel bookings, fancy dinners, all conveniently timed around Damon's availability. By the time the evening rolled around, Adrian had built an ironclad case. Not for court. This wasn't about legalities. This was about showing Sophia exactly what she'd done and ensuring she couldn't twist the narrative to paint herself as the victim. Sunday evening came, and with it, Sophia's return. Adrian watched from the living room window as Damon's car pulled into the driveway. Sophia stepped out, her red dress wrinkled, her hair tousled. She approached the door with her usual confidence, only to pause when her key didn't fit. Adrian smirked, sipping his coffee as he watched her fumble. "Nathan!" she called, her voice laced with confusion. She knocked, then pounded on the door. Adrian waited, letting her panic build. Finally, he opened the door just enough to meet her gaze. "What's going on?" she demanded, her tone sharp. "You wanted excitement, Sophia," Adrian said, his voice cold. "Congratulations, you've got it." She pushed against the door, but he didn't budge. "What are you talking about? Let me in." Adrian stepped outside, tossing a folder at her feet. Inside were screenshots, receipts, and audio recordings. Everything she tried to keep hidden. Sophia's face drained of color as she flipped through the pages. "Adrian," she whispered, tears welling in her eyes. "I can explain." He cut her off with a bitter laugh. "Explain what? That you were bored, so you decided to destroy everything we built together? Save your excuses." "But it didn't mean anything," she cried. "Damon pressured me. I didn't." Adrian raised a hand, silencing her. "You made your choice, Sophia. Now live with it." He pointed to the garage. "Your things are in there. Take them and go." Sophia's lip quivered, her facade crumbling. "You can't just throw me out like this." Adrian stepped closer, his voice low and venomous. "You walked out the moment you chose him. This is me making it official." With that, he turned and walked back inside, slamming the door behind him. Sophia didn't leave right away. Adrian watched through the security camera as she sat in the driveway, her head in her hands. Eventually, she called a friend who arrived an hour later to pick her up. The days that followed were filled with attempts at contact, texts, voicemails, even flowers left at the doorstep. None of it swayed Adrian. His lawyer served her divorce papers within the week. When Sophia showed up at his office, tearfully begging for another chance, Adrian barely looked at her. "You wanted freedom," he said, his voice void of emotion. "Now you have it." Sophia's desperation only grew. She reached out to Adrian's friends, even his family, pleading her case, but the evidence he'd shared ensured no one took her side. Adrian poured his energy into rebuilding his life. The gym became his sanctuary, and painting, a long-forgotten hobby, helped him channel his emotions. Kevin remained by his side, encouraging him to move forward. Months passed, and the wounds began to heal. Adrian no longer flinched at the mention of Sophia's name. It was during a hike with Kevin that Adrian met Claire. Her warmth and easy laughter were a balm to his battered heart. Their connection was slow but steady, built on mutual respect and shared interests. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, Adrian felt hope. Sophia's life unraveled quickly. The humiliation of being locked out of her own home and publicly exposed weighed heavily on her. She had underestimated Adrian, assuming his quiet demeanor equated to weakness. Now she faced the full force of his resolve. Her stay with her friend Melissa offered little solace. Melissa was kind but blunt, and her patience wore thin after Sophia's repeated laments about how unfair Adrian was being. "You're lucky he didn't toss your things on the street," Melissa snapped one evening. "You brought this on yourself, Sophia. Maybe it's time to stop blaming him and take a hard look at your choices." Sophia didn't respond, but the words stung. Deep down, she knew Melissa was right. Damon, the man she had risked everything for, had grown distant. His flirty texts became sporadic, and their supposed connection fizzled into awkward silences. One night, after a tense dinner, he confessed, "I think we should cool things off. This is getting complicated." Sophia stared at him, her heart sinking. "Complicated? You were the one who pushed for this." Damon shrugged, unapologetic. "Look, I didn't ask you to blow up your marriage. That was your choice. I'm not looking for anything serious." The words hit her like a slap. Damon walked away that night, leaving Sophia alone with the wreckage of her decisions. Sophia thought she had reached rock bottom, but Adrian wasn't done. The timeline of her affair, meticulously documented, was delivered to her parents, shattering whatever fragile dignity she had left. Her mother called her in tears. "How could you do this, Sophia? Adrian loved you, and you threw it all away for what? A fling?" "I didn't mean to," Sophia began, but her mother cut her off. "You didn't mean to destroy your marriage? To humiliate yourself? Don't come here looking for sympathy, Sophia. You've embarrassed this family enough." The phone call left Sophia trembling. Adrian's final message, sent with the timeline, echoed in her mind. "This is why I can never come back. This is why it's over." For the first time, Sophia truly understood the depth of her betrayal. She realized she hadn't just hurt Adrian, she had destroyed a life they had built together, a life she hadn't appreciated until it was gone. Adrian's life, meanwhile, took a brighter turn. Claire brought a sense of warmth and simplicity that he hadn't felt in years. Their conversations were effortless, their laughter unforced. One evening, while they sat on a hill overlooking the city, Claire asked, "Do you think you'll ever fully move on from her?" Adrian paused, considering the question. I think I already have, he said finally. What she did taught me a lot about trust, about boundaries, and about myself, but I'm done letting her mistakes define my future. Claire smiled, taking his hand. That's all anyone can ask for. Months turned into a year, and Sophia's life remained stagnant. Therapy became her lifeline, forcing her to confront the selfishness and insecurities that had driven her actions. She wrote Adrian a final letter, not expecting a response, but hoping for closure. Adrian, I don't deserve your forgiveness, and I don't expect it. I just want you to know that I finally see how deeply I hurt you. I thought I was searching for excitement, but all I did was destroy something irreplaceable. Thank you for the years we had, and I hope you find the happiness you deserve, Sophia. Adrian read the letter and placed it in a drawer without a second thought. Sophia's words, while sincere, no longer held power over him. Adrian's relationship with Claire deepened. On the anniversary of his divorce, he reflected on how far he'd come. The pain Sophia had inflicted was a distant memory, replaced by a quiet contentment he hadn't thought possible. During a quiet dinner, Claire leaned in, her eyes sparkling. Do you ever regret how things turned out? Adrian smiled. Not anymore. It wasn't easy, but it brought me here to you. For the first time in years, Adrian felt a sense of peace. He had reclaimed his life, his dignity, and his happiness. Sophia watched from afar as Adrian's life flourished. Social media showed glimpses of his adventures with Claire, a hike in the mountains, a visit to an art exhibit, moments filled with joy. Though she still carried the weight of her mistakes, Sophia no longer wallowed in self-pity. She had lost Adrian, but she had gained an understanding of herself that she hoped would prevent her from repeating the same mistakes. Adrian, on the other hand, no longer looked back. The future was bright, filled with possibilities, and he was ready to embrace it.